Hi, I'm Colleen Delaney, and let's talk about some romance tropes that I hate. All right, I've got my handy dandy laptop ready so I don't do them out of order because I worked hard on this order, making sure that the number one spot was for the number one spot. Number 5, my 5th least favorite romance trope is secret baby. So this is more of a contemporary trope I don't like. I don't mind a secret baby in a historical or even in like a fantasy where there is not the technology to let the hero know that the heroine is not only with child, but delivered a child into this world. I don't like stories where one parent keeps the other one from their child when they have a means of communication to let them know. Obviously, if the partner is abusive in any way, don't let that person know, but these are romances, so they're gonna end up together, so I don't like secret baby. Again, if it's a historical, if the hero goes off to war, the heroine thinks he's dead, whatever, that's different. But in contemporaries, no thank you. Number 4 is authority figure. I get it. Some people really want to read a book where there's a power play is in play, where a power play is happening, and in real life you can't really have a hot affair with your subordinate. So if it's something that gets your id going, reading about it is a healthy way to express it. But personally, I do not want to read authority figure romances ever. And that's like a hard ever for me. Obviously with Secret Baby, I said I can do it in historical or fantasy. I can't really do authority figure ever. It's just not, it's not for me. Okay, romance trope number 3 that I hate/dislike. I really don't like saying that I hate things because there's always the exception to the rule. But number 3 is the office coworker romance trope. This might be because I've only worked in a traditional office for like a year. Otherwise, I've always worked in libraries, schools, and bookstores. So I'm not really familiar with working in offices, but I more find it boring rather than it doesn't work for me for like moral reasons. But I just find that trope kind of boring. I don't really want to read about people going to an office every day, even if they're gonna fall in love. It just doesn't do anything for me. Number 2, which is the most controversial pick on this list, and go nuts in the comments, but I don't like enemies to lovers. So here's my issue with enemies to lovers. I think that most enemies to lovers romances are actually rivals to lovers. Because when you think about what an enemy actually means, it's not someone who like stole a promotion from you at work or whatever, something like that, owns a competing bookstore across the street. Your enemy is someone who tormented you in high school, if we're talking about contemporary, and was cruel to you. Or if we're talking about fantasy, your enemy is someone who murdered your entire family and stole your kingdom. They're pretty big things that I can't get over. I'm a Taurus, so in terms of the contemporary, you bully me in high school, I will never forgive you. I will never want to be your friend, let alone the person you spend the rest of your life with. You should pay for what you did. I did try to write an enemies to lovers once, like a year ago, and I came up with the outline and had all my plot beats done, and I talked about it with my critique partner, and she said, scale back. You made both of them terrible people. No one's gonna wanna read a book about these terrible people. So I did not write that. I only got into outline phase, and it will not be written because enemies to lovers is just not for me to write or for me to read. And lastly, my least favorite trope is Mafia, which I don't even think I've ever read a Mafia romance, but I have no interest in picking one up. For me, I don't want to read about realistic criminals that exist in this world falling in love. I understand that some people really like that, and I'm gonna do my 10 favorite romance tropes, and I have a book that's my favorite book of all time, which is a romance, and it has a kidnapping in it in a fantasy setting. But it's the difference between a fantasy and a real world setting. I don't want to read about mob bosses falling in love. It's just not for me. And it's not just romance. It's like, don't hate me, I didn't really like The Godfather or Goodfellas. They're just not really my type of story. I can also I can do, a vampire who's 5,000 years old and contributed to the fall of Rome and murdered an entire army in, 700 AD. I can do that because it's not real. That person's not real. That person didn't actually do that. But when it comes to actual criminals, I don't super want to read about their love lives. And those are 5 romance tropes that I hate. My next video will be 10 romance tropes that I love, which I would like to film much more because I don't like the word hate. And if when we're talking about romance, we're talking about love. So we'll switch to love. See you in my next video.